Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters in Christ. I am Calvin Robinson, blessed to be the pastor here at Trinity Baptist Church. It is an honor to have our friends, our brothers and sisters from the great university, Francis Marion University, here this evening to talk to us about university studying slavery. I think it's a great endeavor. The more I read about it, the more excited I become. And I want to thank Dr. Carter and Francis Marion for choosing Trinity to be a partner in this. And we look forward to this evening's educational moment. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Erica Edwards to come on up and tell us about this evening in this great endeavor. Dr. Edwards.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I know the weather wasn't necessarily friendly to us, so thank you so much. And also, in the time of COVID, it's very difficult to get people together. And so everybody on the live stream, welcome tonight as well. Thank you for coordinating that with us. We are just so grateful to be able to use this space tonight for this event. So thank you very much, Trinity Baptist Church, wonderful leadership, and all of your congregation for welcoming us. You guys have just been absolutely wonderful throughout this whole process. I also wanted to thank our co-sponsors for today. Different programs and departments at Francis Marion University are helping to make this program happen tonight. So I want to say thank you to the African and African American Studies program, the Honors program, the History Department, and the Department of Sociology. So just very briefly, I wanted to tell you about our new initiative. I'm not going to take up too much time. It is called Universities Studying Slavery. We just recently joined this multi-university collaborative network in order to investigate not only slavery, but also issues having to do with race up into the contemporary period. As you may know, Francis Marion University did not exist at the time of slavery, but the land where the school sits is very much so tied to slavery. It was once a plantation. And we have markings of that still on campus today with the hewn to macabrons that are there, and also a cemetery on campus. And we're going to continue to investigate those different ties out into the community and throughout the PD. So we are very excited to be able to introduce you to this initiative tonight with our talk with Dr. Heyward, and we hope that you'll continue to stay tuned for things that we're doing and definitely engage with us and be a part of all of those different projects that we do. So I would like to, without any further ado, I don't really think he needs much introduction. I'd like to welcome Dr. Fred Carter to the stage so that he can introduce tonight's honored guest.
Thank you. Thank you, Erica. And Erica, let me thank you again for pulling all this together and working so hard to make USS happen. Certainly our participation in USS would not occur had it not been for your labors and your diligence. I'm deeply appreciative of that. And Reverend Robinson, an dear old friend, not so old, but thank you for being a partner, not only in this, but in so many other things that Trinity and Francis Marion have joined together to work on. I'm deeply appreciative, not only of your support, my friend, but your church's support of the university. So it's my pleasure this evening to introduce a dear, dear friend who happens to be our principal speaker. He's a native Florentine. He's the fourth of 5 children, and he's a graduate of Wilson High School, where so many great things have occurred over the years. He earned a baccalaureate degree in mathematics at Hampton University. He earned his master's at Morgan State and his doctorate at the University of South Carolina. He served as an Army-guided missile officer after college and then pursued a career in education that lasted more than 4 decades. At Florence District 1, at FMU, as an aide to Senator Fritz Hollings, and then back to FMU for the final 23 years as vice president and as provost. He has held leadership positions in numerous state and community organizations to include Cumberland United Methodist Church, the South Carolina Conference of United Methodist Church, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, the South Carolina Housing Board, the State Board of Accountancy, and I know a special love of his, the Greenwood Genetics Center. He is a founding member of the FMU African American Faculty Staff Coalition. He's married to the former Evelyn Sargent. They have 3 children and 6 grandchildren, one of whom, Jalen, holds the unofficial world record for running around, through, under, and over the FMU President's House in search of a sugar cookie at the annual children's party 15 years ago. I understand that Jalen has been nominated for induction into the FMU Athletic Hall of Fame for this singular accomplishment. We'll see how that goes. When I became president in 1999, my first official act was to appoint my friend as provost to the university. He is a man of impeccable integrity and flawless judgment, and he has a great love for our state, for our community, and for our university. He also possesses a wicked sense of humor, which is how he survived 43 years in education in South Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Heyward.
I brought along a little bag of cookies. But you will see the meaning of this in a few minutes. Back in November of last year, I was asked to make a presentation to the Francis Marion University Cultural Conversation, where I talked about race or lack of racial relations in the Florence area. At that time, when I began thinking about that, there was no race relations at that time. When I was a young boy, there were no African Americans in the police department, the fire department, the sheriff's department, elected officials, and the list goes on. So whatever we got at that time, it was a struggle. It was a fight. You all don't mind, I'll take this. It was a fight in order to get anything done. And then in July of this year, I was on a panel with one of my friends sitting in the audience, where we talked about downing of a flag. There was a documentary that depicted what happened from slavery up until the time the legislation passed the bill and the former governor signed it, and they brought down the flag after 60 plus years. And then I was asked to talk about race and racism and how it may have impacted my life as a professor or as a teacher or as a person in higher education. Let me tell you a couple of little things that Reverend Carter, but Dr. Carter did not tell you. About 8 decades ago, exactly 4 blocks west of this church on the same street, there was a little boy that was born in the house that now still sits there. That's me. That little boy, as President Carter indicated, was educated in the school system here, segregated as it was. So I was indoctrinated into a segregated society until after my college days. I was a part of the sit-ins and the marches when I was in college during the 60s because we were fighting for what we thought was ours. But you know, a strange thing happened to me, and maybe it was just a situation that I was in, that I went through ROTC. And as a military officer, that was a different perspective because of the fact I was in charge of someone else's livelihood. That was the first time that I was airborne to airborne, shoulder to shoulder with persons of the white race. I learned from them, and I think maybe some of them learned some things from me. We learned how to get along together. We had many conversations, especially with my fellow officers from the North. They could not understand why there was so much hatred down south. Why couldn't people get along? Why couldn't they share? Those years in the military enabled me to come back to this city. Even though I came back to a segregated society, but it enabled me to get into my brain, there are some things that we can do, and we can do it together. When I returned to Florence, I was a teacher at Williams Middle School. And we talk about things that affect your perspective as it relates to race and racism. My youngest sister was a part of the group of students that were to integrate. This was a pilot program to integrate schools here in Florence. She was in junior high, 7th, 8th, 9th grade at that time. And that was a trial run at Poynter Junior High, and there were a couple at McClinic. But as a teacher at Williams, teaching students, and she over here at Poynter, she shared with me the hatred that she had to undergo, which affected me, because here I am teaching a group of students, and there she is going through all kind of, I want to say misery, but I wanted to say something else, but I won't say it because I'm in church. But you can imagine what I would say if I had that opportunity. Many nights were spent, my parents and other parents, who went through discussions and conversations as to how to make it work. She finally graduated from McClinic High School. But I talked with her just last evening as she and her husband were passing through and spent the night. She has not gained a love for those years because of the experience that she had. And because of that, racism at that point in time sort of had something to do with my perspective as well. But because of my military training and because of some other opportunities, I had other opportunities here in Florence. I was a part of the integration of schools in 1970, part of the first faculty at West Florence High School. And I guess I got there, I don't know why. I was chosen, well, maybe I do know why. Chosen, I was one of the two people in the district certified to teach physics. And they needed physics at the high school. So I went to West Florence to be a part of that. Here we go, integration. We had a very, very productive year. Only spent 1 year there. But we had a very productive year with the faculty getting along together. One other experience I will share with you, and then I will get to the final points that I wanted. After I went to Francis Marion in 1973, I spent about 7 years there. And then I was approached by some of the school board members from Florence School District 1. I was asked to interview for the job of assistant superintendent for instruction. If I got it, I would be the first in the school history. Well, there was some I understood that didn't feel like I had the capability or the quality. I interviewed, I got the job, and I think I produced 3 good years for the district. I guess the hurtful thing was that I understood that there were a couple of persons that I thought I knew quite well that decided that they could not work under my administration. That was hurtful. You can call it whatever you want to, but I would call it just a little race, a little racism. But you know, I did not let that be the determining factor in my life. Of all of the experiences that I had, I think some of my best years were at Francis Marion University. I loved it during that time, and I love it to this day. Because there was an administration and a faculty and a staff that was about the business of making sure that the students learned, all of them. It was not a them, but us. It was not you and someone else. It was us collected together. And the interesting part about it was the fact that there were so many things put in place for African American students. They will tell you they were treated fairly. They were treated with respect. Of course, there were some things that they wanted, and they did their marching, and they did their protests, they did their whatever you want to call it, and we listened to them, and we understood where they were coming from. And we went about the business of trying to help. You know, as a part of my relationship with Francis Marion University and the fact that when I started there, African American population was 10%, it's now almost 40%. So that says something for the university about race. Evidently, students feel that they can go to Francis Marion University and get a fair shake. Nobody's going to give you anything. You've got to work for it, but you will have an opportunity. Special scholarships, the Dr. Leroy Peterson Scholarship, Dr. Arthur Harris Scholarship, the Miss Rebecca Lund Scholarship, and even they had the nerve to name one the Joseph E. Heyward Scholarship. But in all those cases, those were scholarships created in order to help students get through their college education. I guess I ought to be real happy, and I guess I am happy. Because I don't think anyone else can boast of having a community center in their name, scholarship in their name, and a street in their name on one university campus. But I thank Francis Marion University for that. But you know, in everything that I've done, in some race and racism, how has it impacted me? But one of the things, and I need to put on my glasses, I can't. A couple of things let me point out. Racism has not caused me to step back from opportunity. I took the chance when the opportunities were available. Racism did not cause me to be a hater. I didn't hate people. I just couldn't understand why they felt the way they did, or better yet, they didn't do some of the things they should have. Racism did not cause me to have low self-esteem. I think very highly of myself. Racism has not caused me to shy away from social contact, conflict. My wife would always tell me, why are we the only ones at these events? I went because if you wanted to know what was happening, you need to be in the midst. You didn't get it from on the outside. You know, racism has caused me to understand that, you know, if you let it, there could be some physiological pain that you can't get rid of. So you have to be very careful. It was my intent to always treat everyone with respect and being firm with my decision. Now I've been talking, but before I take my seat, I need to say something about this community and what we as the community and students and the faculty and staff of FMU to support the acceptance of the university into the National Core Consortium of Universities Studying Slavery. And in a minute, you're going to see why I may have a great interest in that. You know, of all of the experiences that I've had in my life, and all of the accolades that I may have been presented, I am the grandson of a slave. I didn't say way, way, way back. I'm saying the grandson of a slave. My father's mother, born down in Georgetown. And we have, and my father, when he was living, and my older brothers and sisters knew her quite well. I may have been too young to really remember, but they remember. I'm proud of my grandmother and what she accomplished. I've been able to find 2 books of which she's written about. Down by the Riverside by Charles Joyner, and Coming Through, Voices of a Southern Carolina Gullah community. These were collected by Geneva Chandler. There are a picture of my grandmother in each of these books. And they talk about her and the fact that my father was the one who talked her into not selling her land. She was offered $24 for 55 acres of land. My father talked her into not doing that. And my father was also, and he is footnoted in one of the books, John Heyward. He is footnoted in one of the books. But he was also responsible for her getting a home, building a home. And she gives him credit for all of that. My father was the youngest boy of 11 children. I guess he was the baby boy. Maybe the older boys or girls had gone off and done something else. But he was there. And one of the things that, uneducated as she was probably back then, she had a lot of common sense, and she encouraged my father to do the best he could as far as education was concerned. You know, with this limited amount of information that I have, I'm interested in what we may be able to accomplish through the consortium and the studies that we may begin. Why would I encourage you to be involved or to become involved? As I indicated, I want to learn more. There are projects that Dr. Edwards mentioned that have already started. There's an opportunity for students at FMU and members of the community to collaborate, to learn more about the history of slavery, its impact on our and legacies that it may provide. Who knows, there might be an opportunity to develop some kind of exhibit here in the PD area where persons from other parts of the country or other parts of the state may want to be able to come and see what we've accomplished, what we've been able to put together as we go visit some of their things. What might you have to offer for a project researching the history of slavery? What would you like to learn about the subject, either because of a relationship or just for education? Would you like to be a part of the project? You can be, to create a collaborative community. Persons who would help understand the PD region's historical connection to slavery. The slavery that I shared with you was the past. Today we are in the present. And tomorrow, what might the future bring? It's for us to better understand. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Heyward. We're so appreciative of you sharing with us and you being here and being a part of this initiative. What we'd like to do right now is if you have any questions for Dr. Heyward, or you have any questions about some of the things that USS is doing, we'd like to take the opportunity to do that now. One of our ushers can bring you a microphone if you want to ask questions. And we'll let Dr. Heyward be here in his seat, and we'll just bring the microphone to him. Does anyone like to ask any questions this evening?
Dr. Heyward. How you doing, sir?
Doing? All right.
Question is, how did you, being a Hampton graduate, what do you think that experience at an HBCU brought to the experience at Francis Marion?
Well, I guess the mere fact that I was at an all-black institution, I understood a lot of the things that black students needed, the things that they desired, and the things that were lacking, maybe before they got there. So I think that experience at Hampton gave me an understanding of how to deal. I knew what I wanted, what I needed. So as far as the students at Francis Marion, I think that gave me an insight. And I think that's why I went into student affairs, because I wanted to be one who would be able to help.
Good evening, Dr. Heyward. Moving. First of all, thank you for all that you have done and all that you are doing. My question would be, when we look at the effect of slavery to the present day in relationship to where we are as a nation now, we're a nation that came through the civil rights movement. We went through a season where we thought we were making progress, till we got to a season where we had an elected official in a presidential position that seemingly awakened something within our country that was still here. So comparatively, how do you see us as a nation being able to start a new healing process, but also digging up those things that's still here, rooted in our country, that allowed this season to occur?
Wow. You sure? I think that's a question for Dr. Robbins to answer. But I'll take a stab at it. Something has happened in this country in the last. It seems as if we are going backwards instead of going forward. I think that they've tried to just regenerate some of the hatred that we experienced years ago. Now it's going to take some sound minds and some forward thinkers, and I think we're going to have to do it at the ground roots level, as we are doing now. Small group, larger groups getting together and realizing that we are all here for the same thing. We want the same thing. We may not be able to get it at the same level, but we want the same thing. I'm sure my grandkids want a good education, and I'm sure they will go wherever they can qualify to get in, but at least they will have some opportunities for that, not have doors closed in their face. So that would be my thought, and someone else may have something else, but I think we're going to have to start down at the bottom, down at ground root level. And there are many organizations that can be useful to us, for us. And we're going to have to get to those organizations and those groups and ask them to be a part of an awakening, revitalization, moving forward, putting the negatives behind.
Good evening, Doc. So, as young men, how do you think what can we do in order to help with those forward steps? Like, what do you think we can do as far as to help with the change?
One of the things, I think the most important thing is to be positive. To be positive. You can't be negative and get anything done. Just like I indicated up there earlier, racism is not going to change if everybody's a hater. That's not going to change. And I think in terms of young men, you're going to have conversations, talk among yourself, and then you're going to have to get out and let people know that, hey, we are about the business of being positive, doing good, and putting all of the mess behind. So pass the word along to those in your group and say, let's have some conversations about what we can do to make something better. Not what somebody else can do, what we can do, because it's going to take everybody, not one person, everybody to get involved in order to get it done.
I join with the mayor in thanking you, Dr. Heyward. Awesome presentation. And I'm not sure my question is directed to you as much as it is to the consortium. When I read the list of schools, it did concern me as to why there are no HBCUs in the consortium that is coming together to talk about slavery. And so that's my question. And if
Okay, so I can actually speak. Still working? Okay. All right, this is actually something that we are trying to address amongst the South Carolina universities. So Dr. Carter and I met recently to talk about how we can try to bring in more schools, particularly looking toward HBCUs. As of right now, joining USS is a volunteer process, right? So the schools learn about USS and decide that they want to become a part of it. So we're looking to bring together the different member institutions in the state to talk about what we're doing and what we can be doing. And then after we have that meeting, we would like to invite other non-member schools in the state to come and learn about the initiative from us and help to encourage them and to help them with the application process so that they can also become a part of this initiative. Right, so I think a lot of it is raising awareness and letting these schools know. And what's wonderful about the USS consortium is there is no cost to do it. It's just about putting the manpower toward it, really. So the collaboration, right, it's actually international. So it was started at the University of Virginia, and it does have members over in the UK and up in Canada. So there are member schools outside of South Carolina that are HBCUs. So we're going to try to work toward trying to help those other schools join this with us. I hope that answers your question.
Good evening, Dr. Heyward. My name is Richard Waiters. I know you don't remember me, but I was one of your students at Williams Middle School. What I want to say is that our church down in Mars Bluff around the corner from Francis Marion is in possession of one of the remaining Rosenwald schools. And we would really like Francis Marion to see what they could do to help make that a working classroom. We would hate for that history to just sit there and for most people to even not know what it is. It's just right around the corner from the campus. Thank you.
Hi, Richard. I know we've met once and we've corresponded quite a bit, but we haven't really get to see each other because of COVID in the summer. So we are, right, working on doing the oral histories with students that we know of that were at the Rosenwald School. That's a great way for us to start collecting information. You're already on the National Register, which is a wonderful step in the right direction. Actually, this week, a group of us got together to try to brainstorm ways that we can help with identifying grants, right, to help to restore the school. And that also just involved our group in general doing research and reading up on the Rosenwald schools and finding out about the different ones. It turns out there were quite a few in the county, and it's very, very special that yours is one of the, right, only one that stands. So it definitely needs, right, a good, loving touch. So we're hoping that we can meet with you very soon so that we can start to discuss how to go about, applying for those grants and implementing them. I don't want you to think that we are not going to try to help you along on this, but we really want you to be a part of it and for you to be leading on this with us, right? We don't want to be us doing this and telling you what to do. We want to work together in a collaboration. And so we're really looking forward to working with you here.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Keith Jr., and I am the president of the Florence branch of the NAACP. I rise to congratulate my next-door neighbor, Dr. Joseph Heyward. Growing up, I've been knowing Dr. Heyward most of my life, and I'm very proud of him. Never knew that you have roots in Georgetown, South Carolina, and of course, that's where my dad is from, on a little road called Pennyroyal Road down in Sanford, South Carolina. So we may be relatives. Who knows? We may be cousins somewhere down the line. But also, I wanted to congratulate Francis Marion University for becoming involved with this initiative. The NAACP is one of the oldest and largest civil rights organizations in the world. So we stand ready to participate and to help educate our community on the links between slavery and some of the systemic problems that we face here in America. It's not just in America. We have racism is all around the world. My wife is a South African, and I've traveled to South Africa many times. So some of the same problems that we face here, other people are facing all around the world. So we have to stand for what is right, and when we see things that are wrong, we have to. Thank you, Doc. When we see things that are wrong, we have to stand up and call them out for what they are. And I congratulate you, young men, for being here. I see that you're in fraternities and you're active in the community, and this is what we need more of, more guys like you attending things like this. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Heyward.
Questions this evening? I thank you all so much for being here. Dr. Carter would like to say one more word.
I just want to respond for a second to the Senator Glover's question or comments a couple of minutes ago. And I want to be careful how I raise this point, but you'll note that some of the schools in the consortium are schools that really have single-digit African-American enrollment, okay? Senator, you and I have had these discussions over the years. So if you're a school with a single-digit African-American enrollment, you're not going to go very far in convincing HBCUs to do much at all. because you really haven't established much of a record yourself with regard to the change that's so important to be achieved in this state. Francis Marion, over the past years, over the past decades, has really proven that we can communicate across very, very diverse communities and serve as a catalyst for bringing those communities together. That's exactly what we intend to do with this initiative. The discussion that Dr. Edwards and I had a couple of weeks ago really focused on the fact that I don't really want to get into USS simply to be a part of USS. We want to get into USS to be a state leader in championing the ends of USS. And that's when we talked about hosting a conference of all the USS schools here at Francis Marion. No, I don't want to have it in Charleston. No, I don't want to have it in Columbia. I want to have it in Florence. And then the step after that would be to invite many of the schools in the state who in fact can contribute to USS, but right now see absolutely no reason to join because of the existing membership, to perhaps take a step forward and be a part of what we're trying to achieve in this regard. Does that make sense, Senator? Thank you. Back to you, Alan.
All right. One last call for questions or comments.
And since I didn't present my name before, I'm Mayor Teresa Myers Irving with the City of Florence. With that question that I asked about what we could do, I'm glad you made those statements, Dr. Carter, because one of the things we can do is start being more inclusive. A part of my leadership of Florence, one of the things I've always said, as an African American, we're tired of people telling us what we need to have done or what we need to do. It is time to have us at the table so we can communicate what we need and what we see that we need to have done. So Dr. Carter, thank you for that, for creating a pathway to bring others to the table who are the products of many times of slavery. So thank you, and thank you to Francis Marion for leading that way, because I'm the product of Florence School District 1 and Francis Marion, and I'm a Florence native. And yes, I'm a firm believer. Don't tell me what I need to do. Let me tell you what my problems is, what my issues are, what my visions are, and let's see what we can do together to bring that together. So thank you for paving that pathway and helping me to see what the plan is for the university when it comes to being inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for joining us this evening. You were handed some postcards as you came in. Please, any additional comments, any questions, anything you'd like to see coming from this, please include that. And if you'll just leave them on your way out. Have a very lovely and safe evening, and thank you once again. Thursday night, if you want to, so we've actually got another event this week. Thursday night on campus, we've got a performance poet named Glynis Redmond. She has come up from Charleston. She has created original work kind of based on USS and her experiences and kind of trying to share that. That's going to be at 6 o'clock at Chapman Auditorium on the university campus. We'd love to see you guys all come out for that as well. We've got it's a very large auditorium. There is plenty of room. Please come and join us. And again, 6 o'clock, Chapman Auditorium is Glynis Redmond. Thank you.